Hello, everybody, and welcome back to FTBCon3. We are having some technical issues, so we're getting this started a little bit late. But this is the session on why are secular students awesome and how can non-students be involved. And I'm probably going to butcher her name, but this is Cara Zelaya. And Cara, go ahead and take it away. And I will be collecting, well, actually, I'll be collecting questions in the chat room for anybody who wants that. To get their to get to the chat room, go to ftbcon.org. Over on the right-hand side, there is a set of very important links. One of those is for the chat room. And now I will actually let Cara take it away.
Thank you, Stephanie. Am I visible? Yes? Okay. So hi, everybody. My name is Cara Zelaya. Stephanie did a great job at introducing me. Actually, no mispronunciations at all. And I am the Southeast Regional Campus Organizer for the Secular Student Alliance. I'm going to be switching back and forth between a little bit of a presentation that I have and also just my face. That way you're not just reading blocks of text. That's always kind of boring. But yeah, just a little bit of an introduction of who I am and where I come from. I'm relatively new to the secular movement. I wasn't really out as a non-believer until about 2011, and I became really involved in 2013, where I joined the Secular Student Alliance at the University of Central Florida, which is a really great group, and it's very active, and I'm very proud of my alma mater and the group that we had and that we continue to have going on there. And since then, I was very involved with that group, and now I work for the Secular Student Alliance, and it's pretty great. So as a Southeast Regional Campus Organizer, I basically facilitate groups in the Southeast and Southeast student activists, which is a tricky region to be in. As we know, it's like right the center of the Bible Belt, which works okay for me because it's all I've really known. I've lived in Louisiana. I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia, where I've lived previously, and I grew up basically throughout all of Florida. So that's just a little bit of background on me. So I really believe in secular students, and I'm a big fan of millennials and students in general. I am still a student, even though I already have my bachelor's degree. I love students. I think students have so much passion and energy, and there's something special about secular students. There's this just high love for scientific inquiry, for critical thinking, that I think is really hard to replicate in other movements and in other causes. So I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world because I get to work with some of the most interesting people in the world, and they're young and full of energy. Anyway, diving right in. Let's see if I can do this. I know, bear with me during technical stuff because it's not always easy. All right. Let's see. Well, and now it went away. Super. Okay, so that's the Secular Student Alliance logo, my employer and one of my favorite organizations ever. Complete bias, totally evident, but I'm okay with that as long as I'm straightforward about it. And that's me. I guess I'm also a little bit of super biased in talking about how secular students are awesome because I am still one, and I have been one for a few years now. But yeah, if you look to the right, that's a picture of me. It must have been like my junior or senior year of college, and I went to University of Central Florida, which was actually founded by NASA engineers, which a lot of people don't know, and that was me doing a Pennies for NASA awareness campaign. And then to the left, that is a giant spaghetti monster that was built at the CS3, the Carolinas Secular Student Summit. That was a lot of fun, and it's made out of like pool noodles, and so that's just an example right there of the amazing creative things that secular students come up with. I am roughly 6 feet tall, by the way, as a context to the scale there, and of course I'm sitting down, but like imagine that's like me being like, I don't know, 3 feet-ish, so it was very large. It was much taller than me, and it was very cool. So yeah, that's my alma mater and the group that I was a part of. And these are the lovely people I get to work with now. And that's the Southeast logo. Yay, pictures. So Yeah, what I do. I drive around a lot to go to these college campuses. It's not just a remote like idea of my experiences that I have. Like I don't think about students as some like theoretical thing that I only see through a computer screen or that I read in statistics. I actually go to these college campuses and I meet them and I see what they're doing and I spend hours if I can talking to them. So this is like a recent route that I did. This was in September when I did my Carolinas and Georgia trip. So yeah, this was only like half of the route. But those are the schools that I attempted to hit that had secular student groups in them. So yeah, I mean, this isn't really surprising, but this is the state, the importance of religion based on what state you're in. So you can see what a lot of these kids have to deal with in my region, and it's it's not easy, and especially when you're young and you're still trying to create your own voice and become stronger in who you are and define who you are as a person. When you're surrounded by people who are adults and may already not take you seriously because of your age, it's particularly difficult to have them take you seriously or not seriously if you disagree with them about something that they consider very, very important to their life. So yeah, as I said, it's this awesome area of how important religion is: Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Louisiana, Arkansas, Georgia, North Carolina. It's very, very, very difficult for students. But yeah, I want to go a little bit through the services that we provide as an organization, because I think that that gives you a little bit of an idea of how you can help if you're not a student. But also, if you're a student and you're not entirely sure what to do, we have all these services that we provide for you, and also all these services that other groups have kind of been responsible for creating, other student groups. And that's what I think my favorite part of my job is, that I not only create resources with the staff at Secular Students, but we get most of our ideas on resources from students. They are the ones who are really propelling like what we do to the next step, and they're far more creative than I think we will ever be, and we're very comfortable and happy with that. So yeah, we have the campus organizers, we have affiliate programs so that we can give the students logos that make them look very professional, especially branded swag that says Secular Student Alliance. And that really helps them, because one of the things that students are really good at and really motivated by and really creating a fantastic space on their campus for is tabling. Just knowing that there is a student secular group on your campus, even if you're not yourself out or you're just questioning your non-belief or your belief, that in and of itself has a huge, massive effect, and is one of the reasons why I think it's incredibly valuable, and why we encourage it as an organization to have it look as professional and clean as possible and accessible as well. We have a speakers bureau where we can arrange to have speakers come to your campus, and we can even help with the funding to pay for that visit. This is everything from the likes of Jerry DeWitt to Greta Christina. Really, we have a huge, huge bureau, and students create these amazing events where they will advertise and they will bring people in from their community to come see speakers that might not otherwise come to their communities, especially in the rural South. It's very difficult there. But yeah, we also provide funding, business cards, tabling supplies, and funding's very, very easy. This is one of the reasons why supporting the Secular Student Alliance, if you're not a student, is so important, because our money goes as directly as we can make it to the students themselves. If they're trying to attend an event or a conference, whether it's SSACon or whether it's the American Atheist Conference, we are able to provide funding for that. And it's very easy. We also just did our first round of scholarships, and we were able to award scholarships to a few of our students. And my God, reading their applications was mind-blowing to me. These are kids who have started their own businesses, who have just overcome incredible, unsurmountable odds, which for me, just hearing the fact that they have these very difficult challenges besides their non-belief that they face, and they continue to not only do well, but thrive in every environment that they're in. But yeah, we're able to do that. And we also provide money for the groups to go to not necessarily like atheist or agnostic conferences. Everything from bonding trips so that they can go camping, or they can host a little bit of a movie night. We can help with that. We can help with advertising the event, or getting them to be able to do that. I know we've had a group go to a science museum together. We've had a group go camping, and having a social group, having that bond, I think we can all agree is such a vital part of the secular movement in general. We need to create that system of having a support group, and we're really able to do that, and the students are come up with incredible ideas on how to do that. So yeah, project grants, we have a group running guide, emails, pretty standard stuff. Now, if you want to know what's going on with students, I highly recommend signing up for our This Week or our This Month. This is where we highlight individual student work constantly. We talk about what they're doing with funds they've received, or just really, really great ideas of things that they do that I'm going to get into in a little bit. I'm going to switch over back to my face because, like I said, I don't want you all to just be, what happened? To just be looking at words. My face would make it a little bit more interactive. We also have a secular safe zone, which is starting to sprout on different campuses throughout the country, and you don't have to have a secular student alliance to have a secular safe zone, and this is a way to allow us to have professors be more involved on college campuses. So it's very much modeled after the LGBTQ safe zones that LGBT organizations have promoted in different college campuses as well. I know that my college campus had or has still an LGBT safe zone, and this is one of the ways that you can be not involved. If you find you can be involved, sorry, if you're a non-student, and if you live next to a college campus, or you can look up where there's a secular safe zone near you. You can volunteer time. You can volunteer whatever they may need. If they happen to have like a lounge, maybe you can volunteer food. So definitely look into that to see what's around you. But yeah, that's mostly run by faculty, staff at colleges, and students. So it's all of this is very much student work constantly, which is mind-blowing to me. But yeah, I want to share. So I actually am doing a student advocacy and political engagement talk at 3 p.m. with Dan, and who is one of my coworkers. But I want to go into this a little bit too. Let's see. So this is one of the resources that we created, which was the voter registration drive, and it was actually modeled after what some of the students were doing last year when it was midterm elections. And here you can see the University of, I believe it's the University of Kentucky, I may be wrong, but they hosted voter registration drives. Students are going beyond just secular issues and going into really national issues and issues that everyone has, and getting very, very involved in making sure that their voices are heard, and that people who are their age, who have their beliefs, or even people who don't have their beliefs, can register to vote. And I think that's really important, especially as it's already infamous that students don't particularly vote as often as they maybe should. So I've learned a lot being around students, and I've learned a few things. So I think that students are creative. This is one of my favorite things. This is an SSA wreath that was made for the holiday season by a group. And so I'm sure everyone knows that during the holidays you can't really escape decoration. And if you're a non-believer, it can be a kind of difficult time, especially if you have faith yourself and you don't participate really in those traditions anymore, or you don't particularly have a family or support group anymore because you don't believe in those things and you've got disowned. I mean, there's a whole slew of complications. Well, student groups come up with the greatest ways to celebrate the holiday season and to stick together and to have a friendship group. And this is an SSA wreath, and it's great. It's cheery. They made it from scratch. I think they just bought like different colored bulbs and a wreath and just glued it together. And yeah, and students throw like Festivus parties, or just airing of grievances and all that kind of stuff, or any kind of or winter solstice parties, and they get together, especially at the end of the semester when finals are winding down and they're about to go home, or just be with secular students and celebrate and have fun. I love this. It's also great advertising. Like, this is a group who's on it. This is from the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and it's called Checkmate Atheist. And it was a social event where the club sat in these tables, and they put chessboards in front of them, and it was very much, hey, come play chess with an atheist, come talk to us. Well, we assure you we're very lovely people, and it'll be a lot of fun. And it was a huge, huge success, and it's so clever grabbing the Checkmate Atheist meme, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with from the internet, and turning it on its head, and being able to poke fun at themselves and also reach out to the community and be well-spirited and just have fun. This is also kind of caught on at different campuses. I know they were the first one to do Checkmate Atheist. I believe so, University of Alabama, Birmingham. And I know now that at different college campuses, when students are tabling, they bring a chessboard with them. So if a student who is not part of the Secular Student Alliance, who might want to get more information, or who might just want to talk to someone who is a non-believer, this is kind of a fun icebreaker. And yeah, I'm a really big fan of this. You also see game nights sprouting up everywhere throughout the college campuses. That's like so exciting to me because it is a social group, and yeah, there's many groups who have weekly game nights. So I love this Checkmate Atheist. So this is I think this is also UAB. Yes. We always encourage our students to find new ways to advertise their meetings. And for those of us who went to college, we're lucky enough to go to college, I think we remember constantly being flyered by different organizations. And, it's really hard to get a student's time to convince them. It's really hard to grab a student and convince them in a certain amount of time to attend a particular meeting. And
hey, Cara, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're not getting your screen sharing. You might just want to switch back to your face again.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have so many pretty pictures.
I know.
Oh, God, what's happening? Stop. Was it just blank?
Yeah, it was just showing your icon.
Wonderful. Okay. Anyway, well, I guess that visual aid died. It's really pretty stuff. Well, I can still talk about chalking and stuff. Yeah, for those since you couldn't see it, it's kind of like a drawing of from Futurama, and so it says organized religion. Why not Zoidberg? And it's, yeah, I don't know. I love very smart and clever advertising. And students are smart too. They know how to market themselves and what works and what doesn't. So they know that food is what really sells, and they'll bring food and they'll have events. I know that the Furman University has a coffee with an atheist thing outside of their library, which is a good way because who doesn't want free coffee? I think even the most religious of people need coffee, and if the atheists are the ones giving it, you can't really lose. The other thing I've really learned about students is that they are constantly challenging convention. Every generation that comes forth, it challenges convention in a very different way. And secular students particularly, I think, are less afraid to really engage in being a little bit riskier, a little bit more outspoken. And so the challenging convention is something that they excel in. Right now, there's been a trend of secular invocations that are happening. So in many city governments, before elected officials sit down and decide to have a meeting to decide whatever the issues are for that particular week, for that particular region, there will be a moment of prayer. And a lot of secular students have decided that this moment of prayer is kind of unfair. In fact, they see it as unconstitutional because there's no separation of church and state there. But the way that these city governments have been able to get around it is saying, well, we'll allow all faiths to speak. It's just that we only have this one Christian person who wants to lead us in prayer. What can we do? So what the students have done, secular students particularly, is they go to they basically go and say, okay, well, we'd like to say something because, we're not a faith, but we have our own system of belief and values. And so they do kind of like a humanist invocation. And they talk all about reason and how secular values and humanism should really lead the discussion and inspire rather than superstition. It's very powerful, and you're starting to see it sprout up. And then you're also starting to see that these other invocations are just kind of stopping existing because they've been a little bit put off by the secular students or even by different groups like Satanist groups who have also been vying for time. And so now a lot of cities just have moments of silence, which I think is progress and very exciting. So yeah, students are really going up to their governments and saying, this is what we want to see. I know that James from SSA UCF was actually awarded like an activist award and for his amazing secular invocation. We also have students who are moving beyond secular issues, which is really important, especially when we talk about intersectionality and when we talk about gender issues and things of the sort. I of course, am a big believer in that we have a lot of work to do in the secular movement in general, and we have a lot of work to do within our own governments and in advocacy. But there's something about caring about other people that's so vital. One of the reasons why churches succeed so well is that during times of struggle, they're able to reach out to their communities, despite and it's not entirely religion-based. And so students are seeing more and more that when they focus a little less on the there is no God question and a little bit more on, okay, but how can we improve the planet since there is no like godly intervention, they find that their groups grow stronger and better and more active. So we have students doing Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, which is kind of like a demonstration where males of the group will put on high heels and walk a mile in solidarity of all the women and other people in their lives that are victims of sexual abuse or abuse in general. And it's really lovely to see students doing this, and secular student groups specifically. So this way they're also able to work together with women's groups and just with groups that promote equality and general kindness and safety. And so they're expanding really their prowess and their strength in organizing themselves. We also see, it's always funny because people ask me a lot, like, oh, we're trying to do like a mini conference, when should we plan it? And I always say, please, please, please do not plan the same weekend as any pride parade going on because you're not going to get a good turnout. And that's because secular students are so involved with the LGBTQ movement, and they have huge presence at pride parades, at different events, at equality marches, and it's so inspiring and amazing to see. And it's more the norm than the rarity now, where students are so involved with the LGBTQ movement. And the other thing I've learned is that students are so friggin' nice. Like, they're like secular students are just nice people. So like I said, I go to all these different campuses on campus visits, and I meet with the leaders, or I'll go to a group meeting, and every time I go there, everyone goes out of their way to make sure that I'm comfortable and that everything's fine. And the truth is, like, they don't work for me. I work for them. Like, I'm basically their employee. I'm there to assist them. And they always find a way to make sure that, oh, do you want to see the campus? They flood me with all this information and love and passion, and it's inspiring and incredible, and so I really don't understand the angry atheist stereotype, because I don't see that. The students that I work with are compassionate and kind and loving and respectful. One of the pictures that I had on my PowerPoint is that I went to, I believe it was Coastal. Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, so it was the Coastal Humanist groups. The Coastal Humanist Group, and Dylan is the president right now, and so he was talking about how they have problems with campus preachers, which is such a common thing, and that's another thing that students are fantastic at dealing with. But the campus preachers love to hand out these like little New Testament Bibles, and so like the entire campus is littered with stacks and stacks of these New Testament Bibles. And Dylan told me very graciously that he was so concerned about the the effects that this was having on the ecosystem, just how much like littering the New Testament Bibles were causing. And so he actually grabbed one and he drew a flying spaghetti monster on the little like introduction thing for me, and he just thanked me for making the trip of coming out and see him and his group. But yeah, it's kind of things like that. So speaking of campus preachers, we also see students doing a lot of things to combat that in a friendly and positive way. We'll see students standing a little bit away from the campus preacher who is hate-mongering and just yelling and being aggressive and invasive to their space, and they'll be holding signs saying, "Smile, hug an atheist," or they'll be playing preacher bingo, which is they'll make up these cards and they'll hand them out, and every time the preacher says something like, "Oh, you know, women shouldn't get an education," or something terrible and oppressive like that, you can kind of check it off. And if you get preacher bingo, you get some kind of prize. It's usually candy or something of the sort. So it's really clever. I also have a story that I like telling, which is I met with the president of the Appalachian Atheist Agnostic Association, and this is a pretty remarkable example of an individual who is incredible. He is very openly atheist. He's the president of his group. He's focused very much on science. And he was telling me the story of how one of the main reasons he became a non-believer is that when he was in high school, his best friend passed away. And his friend passed away from the flu. Basically what happened is that the flu got to his heart and complications arose, and he couldn't make it. And he became so upset that something that's so preventable took the life of his best friend. And so now he focuses the bulk of his time studying vaccines and vaccination. And his big project is to bring accessible vaccinations to his university through his secular group. I was like trying to not cry when he told me this, sitting in a little cafe at his gorgeous college. I never would have. For some reason, I hadn't made the connection of vaccination and science and how much it goes into our secular and humanistic values. And he's basically dedicated his life now. I believe he told me he was going to go get his master's in some kind of study regarding viral diseases and immunization. But it's one of those things where, again, I just can't understand the stereotype, because to me, secular students are that. Like that's what a secular student is. That's what a secular activist is, and they're just incredible. I'm sorry, I'm like mumbling because I'm every time I tell that story, I feel it all over again. And the last picture that I was gonna really show was it's basically like a collage of all the pictures where you see these campus preachers, these Westboro people who are having really very terrible signs and very terrible messages. And there's always that one millennial secular student holding a sign that says, "You deserve love, you deserve respect, you deserve kindness, smile, don't listen to this, everything's going to be okay." So yes, secular students are awesome. I believe that with every part of my being. Now, when it comes to how you can help if you're a non-student, I believe there's another talk altogether that my coworkers are doing, specifically watching that. I believe it's Gordon's doing this talk. I'm not sure. Please look at the schedule. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's an entire topic altogether. But I do want to touch on it lightly, because I know that when I tell these like individual stories, people are always like, "Oh, what can I do?" One, find a secular college, if you can afford it, find a secular college group nearest you and find some way to help them. We as a national organization help them as much as we can financially, but they could really, really use an older mentor or someone with resources, even if it's just offering, like if you have a pool, like offering your house up to do a pool party, or if it's offering to host an event. And secular students can really help, especially community groups, a lot too, by being able to provide the space from the university. They usually can get venues at their university for little price to almost nothing. But yeah, it's really about wherever you are, finding the local students in your area and being able to help them in any way that you can, in any kind of older sibling or parent way that you would help somebody. That's it. That's all you really need. You can also always help out Secular Student Alliance. We are a nonprofit organization, so you can donate to us as well. I could go on, but I don't know if there are any questions or things.
We don't have any questions just at the moment, so why don't you go on and I will solicit for those again.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I actually have oh my gosh, I'm really upset that you can't see all my pictures because I had like an extra little PowerPoint about about different individual stories that I've heard about secular students being awesome and different plans. But I'm actually going to talk a little bit about different holidays that secular students have kind of come up with. So we have Darwin Day coming up in February, which is really exciting, and students come up with different ways to celebrate within their campus. Everything from bringing tenured biology professors to their meetings to give lectures, to hosting Darwin Day parties where they watch different movies like End of the Apes or something silly or anything of the sort. I know that there's also very popular, when Cosmos was back on the air with Neil deGrasse Tyson, there were very popular Cosmos viewing parties. So any kind of science-y related thing, they would turn into some kind of holiday or event, which always went over very, very well and is very, very inexpensive, which is important if you're a student, especially a college student. I'm going to talk a little bit too about high school groups, because we do work with high school groups, and they are very, very difficult to operate and to begin, but definitely doable. So I never want to discourage high school students from being able to start their own groups and organizations. But there's a certain kind of bravery that is vital to starting a high school group, especially because if you are a minor and your parents aren't particularly approving of it, it can cause some tension at home, and we always tell our students that their safety and their well-being is the most important thing. But despite that, there will be students who, despite not necessarily having the support from their parents, will want the group, will find ways to start it. And we can provide them with resources. In fact, we can even have the box not say anything that shows that this is coming from a secular student organization, which is good too, even if your parents are okay with it, but you live in a city where if someone even catches wind of what you believe or what you're up to, you can get in major problems. So we do offer that. And high school groups have such a hard time and have such bravery in doing what they do. I went to a high school / technical college in I think it was South Carolina, and I went to one of their meetings. It was in the middle of the day. It was right between, like, right after, like, during their lunch period, kind of, and it brought me back because I hadn't been in high school in a long time. And they would all go to get their lunch and then come to this classroom of this one teacher who was their sponsor, basically their faculty advisor. And they would sit there and they would talk about what they're going to do next. And they very proudly held their, like, secular student buttons that they wore on their backpacks. And one of their main things that they focused on was just being visible and being able to say, like, no, like, you know, this is what I believe, this is how I feel about the larger questions. And I don't know how to do it, because when I was 17, like, I didn't know how I felt about anything, let alone when I was like 15. But the fact that they were so sure of who they were and what they wanted to do, and I remember when I was there, it was right before Halloween, and they were planning a Halloween party. And one of the things that they said that they were going to do is they were going to throw this Halloween party at, like, one of their houses. And in order to come into the Halloween party, you had to bring a canned good. And the canned good would then be donated to the local homeless shelter. So I follow these students' Facebook groups, like their official secular Facebook groups that they have for each of their schools. And I found out later that that very same group was doing a collection to raise money for someone that had passed away. And I was very concerned for this. And so I went in and I commented and I was like, hi, if you need any help, please reach out to me. I don't know the particulars of the circumstances. And what had happened was that the school janitor had passed away. And he was about like a year or two away from retirement. And because of the nature of his contract, his widow would not be receiving the full amount that he would be getting had he actually like completed his contract and been able to retire on time. And she, I believe, was out of work and so relied entirely on her husband's income. And so these students were raising money to be able to pay for the widow's expenses and were fighting to be able to provide for her well-being. I mean, again, we're talking 16, 17, 18-year-olds who are creating these incredible fundraisers for their school janitor and his wife, and very, very, very moving stuff. But yeah, that's high school groups for you. And another particular, hold on, it's very difficult to not have my notes in front of me, I'm sorry. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, yes, Westboro Baptist Church. That's always something fun to talk about. So I did talk about how there's all these protests and things that happen when Westboro comes in town. And I specifically meant there when Westboro or preachers come to college campuses specifically. But there are demonstrations that happen where Westboro will go to funerals or things of the sort. And more often than not, you'll find secular students taking time out of their day and out of their lives to go and protect the families from all this hate mongering. And I believe there's even a couple of instances where the students were so well at protecting the immediate surroundings from this that Westboro was like basically not there for as long as they normally are. So we see instances of that constantly happening now throughout all over the country. Now, one of the things that I do like talking about is my experience, of course, is mostly in the Southeast, which is a really difficult kind of area. But when you look at groups in the Northeast or even a little bit in the West Coast where it's less politically risky, I guess, to be secular, what we see is students really focusing on creating tutoring programs. I know a particular instance of a student who was responsible for starting the tutoring program that led to students being able, students with disabilities, being able to continue going to school with the help of an assigned peer tutor. And this was a secular student who started this program. And I'm sorry, by the way, if I'm not using like specific names and things, but I do have to keep in mind the privacy of the students. If you would like to know the particulars, please feel free to reach out to me, cara.zelaya@secularstudents.org, and I can ask those particular students. But a lot of these kids, especially students who are in high school, aren't of age, so I can't really disclose all their information, and a lot of other students just aren't out to their families, so I'm very sorry about that, but I have to speak in sort of general terms in regards to them for their own safety and well-being. But yes, we have students who, tutoring is very, very big in general with the secular student groups, but we have students who are actually starting tutoring programs, especially for students with learning disabilities. And this is a different instance altogether. I was walking with a campus SSA leader across his campus, and I noticed that there were all these students who would constantly say hi to him and were rushing up to him and like giving him hugs and being very, very loving and kind to him. And I turned to him and I said something along the lines of like, oh, you know, like you're very popular. People seem to be very fond of you. And he goes, oh yeah, these are my my special ed students. I work with them and I dedicate my time to them. And I was wondering, like, oh, like, is this something that you do for, like, college credit, like work study? He's like, no, I helped start this program. So, yeah, the kindness is overwhelming, and you see it just constantly overflowing from everybody. So, yes, if you want to get more involved, I'm going to kind of wrap it up a little bit. I think I have, like, 9 minutes or so left. But if you would like to get more involved, please go to secularstudents.org. You can look up, I believe it's /affiliates, just Google secular students and affiliates, and we have our entire listing of secular students that are in your area that you can assist and help, and just honestly click on that link, shoot them a Facebook message. Students are so much more accessible and receptive than I think the perception is. There's this stereotype, which may or may not kind of ring true, that students are glued to their phones. I know I am. But when you're trying to get a hold of someone, that is the most invaluable quality you can have, is someone who will answer or text you back or send you an email. So if you reach out to a student group, you will likely get an answer within an hour. And they would be happy to host you or have you even just come to one of the meetings. If you're part of a secular non-campus group, I especially recommend getting involved with them. Invite them to your meetings, come to theirs, create a community. The truth is, we're still too much of a minority to be fragmented. And to create these barriers because of age or because of educational status or because of perceived misuses of technology or whatever it may be is silly. We have to use our humanistic values of kindness and goodness and cooperation and work with as many people as we can that we have on our sides, because there really aren't that many of us. And we all have different skills to bring to the table. Our different generational differences are not complications, but assets that we can use to our benefit. So I highly, highly, highly cannot emphasize enough, please reach out to your group. Now, if you are in a place where there are no secular student groups, like at all, which there aren't that many places anymore where that really exists, but of course there are some. I really recommend coming to the Secular Student Alliance conference or to any local secular-based conference. Again, there are great conferences all over. American Atheist is a great conference, but there's something about student-run conferences that I think you will learn more than you'd imagine. Students don't only have localized information anymore. They have a worldwide perception of existence, and that's so completely vital and such a great, great tool to be able to use. Also, they have like endless amounts of energy and enthusiasm and incredible communications and social media skills. I read so many articles about millennials about how they don't know how to use social media and they're so irresponsible, but these are the same people who create worldwide trends with hashtags and people who are protesting in the streets. It is that sort of 18 to like 30 demographic that is creating all the noise that's going on right now politically and online, and you can't really underestimate that, and you can't really overuse that either. So. All
right. Well, Cara, we are coming up against our time. I want to reiterate, I love working with our local campus atheists, skeptics, and humanists over here at the University of Minnesota. I'm doing a conference with one of them this summer. So,
yay!
Yeah. But thank you so much for coming in and telling us about all the wonderful things and dealing with us through all of the technical difficulties.
It's all good. It's all good.
All right. Thanks, everybody.